So I have finally beaten Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character, and he's even my favorite character in anything. Batman is a close second, but Spidey ultimately takes over. I've always connected with him, both personally and professionally. He has taught me many things throughout my life, and he will always be an icon for me. I've always been heavily invested in the movies, shows, comics, etc., and I loved the Spider-Man 2018 game by Insomniac Games. At the time, it was my favorite game of all time until recently. It took me some time to figure out which one was better, but I finally decided Spider-Man 2 is the best game of all time. For this video, I will split this into separate parts, with the story, characters, gameplay, and the score. Story. This is a top 5 Spider-Man story for me. It is an amazing adaptation of the symbiote storyline, which is one of my favorites from the comics and in the TV shows. It has an incredible story with Kraven's hunting in New York, and it has an awesome story between Peter and Miles' growing relationship, both personally and as protectors of New York. My first point for the story is the symbiote. In my opinion, this is the best adaptation of the symbiote arc ever. It nails the transition from Peter being normal to becoming evil. It was so awesome seeing him slowly become more and more corrupt, which isn't a good thing, but when you're a diehard Spider-Man fan like me, then you gotta admit that's pretty awesome. The one quote that stood out to me from him is that he says, "It makes me a better Spider-Man." That just shows how deep Peter has fallen into the symbiote's corruption and ultimately is starting to become one with the symbiote. Miles, MJ, and Harry all see that Peter is changing, and like in all the other things we've seen with the symbiote storyline, they start to come up with a plan to get Peter out of that state that he is in. The levels during this time in the game are probably the best, in my opinion, and the transition from the symbiote on Peter into Venom was awesome.
We're going to heal the world.
My next point is Kraven's hunt. It was really interesting to see Peter and Miles side with the other villains in order to prevent them from being killed by Kraven. For example, when they help Tombstone escape, they have that moment afterwards where they kind of do like a handshake and say like, "Whenever you need me, I'm here," whatever, that kind of thing. Instead of making Kraven a general threat that doesn't actually do anything brutal, they actually show him killing the other villains in the universe, which was really shocking for me and awesome at the same time, I guess. I'm not mad that the major Spider-Man villains were killed off. They've been Peter's villains for over 8 years, and he's already had his encounters with them. He's had the fights he's needed to with them. Would it have been awesome to see them? Yes, but he's got plenty of more villains to introduce in the upcoming games of the franchise. Kraven's story overall had a super interesting plot, with him wanting to find a worthy opponent to fulfill his life purpose and being the ultimate hunter. He also has his inner family battle with the Kravinoffs, and it's been revealed throughout dismantling the Hunter bases. My next point is the Spider-Men. So Peter and Miles' relationship is growing in this game. Peter still kind of mentors Miles, but Miles is proving to be an excellent Spider-Man on his own, as he did in his own game and is proving to be in this game. Always supporting each other, both as Spider-Man and in personal life, Peter and Miles have each other's backs, and they are always there for each other. It is super awesome seeing that dynamic between the two. The only thing close to this that we've seen is in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. A sub point I have for this is breaking the darkness. I've said this before in another video, I can link that below. Miles had to be the one to bring Peter out of the darkness of the symbiote, and he did. There was an awesome fight between Miles and Peter, which was one of my favorite parts of the story, and having their relationship grow, then start to diminish as Peter was becoming more corrupt was essential. Miles becoming the source of light was a must for this story. This proves that Miles is just as powerful, or even more powerful than Peter is. This is a big step for Miles' character, and I'm so glad they went this route for it. The final point I have for this story is the final chapter. In the post-credit scene, we see Norman Osborn visit Otto Octavius in prison after he was imprisoned at the end of the first game. Norman asks for the identities of the Spider-Man, but Otto refuses. Norman obviously is setting up a revenge plot, teasing that he is developing a G serum to help Harry. However, Norman Osborn, we could kind of link this to that it's going to be a Green Goblin related thing. Otto reveals he is writing the final chapter for the Spider-Man universe. So, the setup for Spider-Man 3. Is the Green Goblin coming? If so, he has to be the main villain. I would love to see him be the endgame villain for Peter, the villain that has built up over this trilogy, and it's pretty obvious in this game that Norman's going to pose a threat later on regarding what happens with Harry. Personally, I want to see a classic Goblin design with the purple hood, glider, very slender figure, not the hulking Goblin monster that has been in recent content. Although I could see them doing both, I 100% want the classic Goblin design. Another setup, is Doc Ock going to return? If so, that would be awesome, and perhaps he's putting together a new Sinister Six to have his final battle of revenge against Peter. Also, Silk joining the team? Cindy Moon has a cameo at the end after Rio Morales introduces Miles to Albert Moon, who is Rio's new boyfriend, and he in turn introduces Rio and Miles to Cindy, who in the comics is Silk. So right now, Cindy Moon is a sister figure to Miles. It would be interesting to see Miles be the mentor for Silk, unless she's already Silk and they don't know it yet. I highly doubt that's what's going to happen, but it would be really awesome seeing Peter mentor Miles and then Miles mentor the next Spider person. And it would make sense to have 3 Spider people for Spider-Man 3. This one was Spider-Man 2. It had 2 Spider-Man, so, you know. And it would be interesting to see Cindy as Silk in the series. My next section are the characters. Starting with Peter, Yuri Lowenthal is perfect as Peter Parker. He's a top 3 Spider-Man of all time for me. That includes the movies, TV shows, games, everything. He is a top 3 Spider-Man of all time for me. His voice acting in this was impeccable. He nails the contrast between normal Peter and corrupted Peter. Amazing. He also gives my favorite performance of the symbiote corrupted Peter ever. He definitely deserves an award for this role, and I will always praise the work he has done in this franchise. This was an incredible portrayal of the symbiote storyline. They nailed everything that is essential in telling that story. Having Peter get the symbiote, he thinks it's cool, it's helping him, then he slowly starts to go down that dark path, and Peter ends up, in a way, hurting the other people in his life, and he has to have that realization where he has to fight back in the symbiote. Now, we don't really get that in this game, but they nailed the fact that Miles made him realize that he needed to pull it off and become Peter Parker again. I can't wait to see Peter's future in the franchise, and I really hope he comes out of retirement in the next game. On to Miles. Naji Jeter is incredible in this role. He's great at playing the teenage aspect of the character and the more mature aspect of the character as well. Miles is a teenager who is also a huge role model for not only his family but also Peter. He provides many moments of inspiration that shows his maturity in serious situations. He has awesome character development. This game solidifies Miles as a worthy and respected Spider-Man by all. Fans of Spider-Man and even the New Yorkers in the game share the same opinion that he is a great Spider-Man. I really can't wait to see Miles' future role in the franchise, and perhaps he will mentor the next Spider-Man down the line, or Spider-Person, with it being Cindy Moon. On to MJ. It was great seeing her return. She plays a much bigger role in this game. The missions with her, definitely an improvement. I didn't really enjoy them in the first game, but these ones make it more fun to play as her. It was great seeing her and Peter's relationship grow and then become questionable as Peter becomes more corrupted. That's something that has always been in the symbiote storylines, where whoever Peter's love interest is slowly becoming disconnected from him as Peter's becoming more and more rageful and corrupted. So that was awesome. And her becoming Scream was super unexpected. I legit went, what the when she transformed. It was one of the hardest boss fights in the game, but it was really cool to actually go through that in this game. I'm really interested to see how her and Peter's relationship progresses later on in the franchise, and I'm glad she came back in a much bigger role in this game. On to Harry Osborn. It was really cool seeing that Harry got a role in this game. He played a super key role in the overall story. He introduces Peter to the Emily May Foundation. They work together like the good old days, like when they're in high school. And then their friendship starts to fade as Peter again becomes more corrupt. Harry needs the symbiote to survive. The disease that he has is killing him, and the symbiote heals him so the disease won't hurt him. Harry becoming Agent Venom was another surprise. I was actually really shocked that they did that, because Agent Venom in the comics is Flash Thompson. But it was really cool seeing Peter and Harry fight together for a period of time, and I'm really interested to see if Harry returns later on or is just kept to the side since he is very sick again. Now, on to Kraven the Hunter. This was one of the greatest adaptations of the character ever. In addition to that, he's also one of the best versions of any Spider-Man villain in any medium. Joe Peary was brilliant in the role. He's an absolute badass. Massive props to taking an already awesome Spidey villain and making him even more terrifying and intimidating. Design-wise, he looked perfect. He had the big puffy coat, he had the big beard, black hair, everything. He looked perfect in this game. Kraven proves that he is the greatest hunter ever. His motivation was perfect. I wish they would have shown more of him going after Spidey villains one-on-one when he's going around killing them, but it kind of leaves more to the imagination with what he did to them, and it creates a more terrifying aspect to the character, in my opinion. Trying to push Peter to kill him was awesome. It shows that he was trying to push Spider-Man into becoming that beast that he hunts. He wants him to go down that path, and ultimately Peter may never come back from that if he did end up killing him. I was completely shocked that they actually killed him and Venom was the one to do it. That was a major wow moment for me. It had me on the edge of my seat, and I couldn't believe that I could see Venom actually kill Kraven. This action fulfilled his goal. He was slain by the Beast, and in this he found the worthy opponent. This entire arc for Kraven was a chef's kiss for me. Next character, Venom. Again, one of, if not the best adaptations of the character ever. Again, one of the best versions of any Spider-Man villain in any medium. Venom was so damn good in this game. And Tony Todd is the GOAT. He will always be my voice of Venom. He's truly iconic, and he will always be the voice I hear in my head when I read the comics. Also, this is the best Venom has ever looked. They nailed the design of the character. Insomniac cooked with this Venom. Having Harry as Venom fit the story perfectly, in my opinion. He took advantage of Harry's goal, which was to heal the world. He even has a scene of dialogue where he says something along the lines of, "You feel better now, don't you? Imagine if everyone had this power." So he takes Harry's motivation and applies that to the symbiote's overall nature in wanting to corrupt everything and take over. Venom taking over all of New York with the symbiote meteor was awesome, but also really unexpected. I did not expect them to go down that route where the symbiotes were literally taking over the entire city and corrupting everyone in their path. I'm super interested to see why people think Venom could return for a spin-off. The symbiote literally dissolves after they defeat him. So how can Venom return? Let me know in the comments if you have any theories, but I'm honestly super confused as to why people think this could happen. Next character, Martin Lee / Mr. Negative. It was really cool seeing him return. He was one of my favorite parts of Spider-Man 2018, and his boss fight in this was awesome. Him tormenting Miles through the illusions, then Miles overpowering him and becoming more powerful than Lee was really cool. And I love how they gave him a redeeming arc in this game. He came to terms with all the lives he made worse in the first game, and then he helps Peter and Miles in fighting the symbiotes and giving Peter the anti-venom ability. I'm very interested to see if he returns later on in a more hero role, but it was nice seeing him come back in this game. Next character, Dr. Connors / the Lizard. It was really awesome seeing him being included in this. The lizard fight chase was one of my favorite parts of the game, both for the part showed in the trailer, as well as the boss fight and the chase in the city. So you have that boss fight in the sewers, you go through all that, then he has a chase throughout the city where Kraven goes after him, then you do another fight in the sewers. That part was so good. And in this part, Peter's corruption becomes even more clear. You can see his tone from the beginning of the fight to the end is drastically different. He becomes more and more entwined with the symbiote by the end of this mission. It was very interesting to see how the symbiote was the reason he lost his arm. I wasn't expecting them to reveal that about the character, but it was really cool. And the game perfects the fact that Connors really is deep down a good person. He wants to help others, but the lizard makes him look like a bad guy, which is something that is always misinterpreted about the character, that the lizard is just a bad guy, he just goes around on a rampage. No, Dr. Connors is a good person. He just has the lizard serum in him, which then makes him go on rampages as a mindless monster. It's not him in control. I'm really interested to see if Connors returns later on in the franchise, and it was really cool seeing him in this game. Onto the side characters. We have Genki, Rio, and Haley returning, which was really cool. I'm personally a really big fan of Miles and Haley being together. I hope everything goes okay with them, and it's not another, Gwen Stacy situation. Seeing the other villains return was awesome, and I'm always going to be excited to see them come back. But obviously we're going to get a new wave of villains going forward. Onto the gameplay. I absolutely love the traversal improvement in this game. The swinging is way faster, and we have the web wings, which I've always wanted. I mentioned this before in the same video I talked about earlier in this video. This makes the city navigation way faster, and it's so awesome seeing the web wings finally used in a game on a PS5 that is literally built to accommodate this kind of feature so well. Huge praise to Insomniac for including that. The combat in this is amazing. There's more takedown animations. They still obviously keep the basic combat from Spider-Man 2018, which was already perfection, but they give us new abilities such as the spider arms, obviously the symbiote powers, which were my favorite to use, and the evolved venom powers for Miles, where he has a lot more powerful abilities from his standard venom abilities in his own game. The side missions in this were really well done. There's lots to do. I hope they add more in the future, like in DLCs. And there's huge setups out of these, like Carnage, the Chameleon, and maybe Miguel O'Hara playing an influence later on. There's a surprising amount of emotion put into a couple of these missions. For example, the grandfather mission, where you have to find someone's grandfather in a park, and he ends up talking to Spider-Man about proposing to his wife in that park, and it's really heartfelt, and honestly, it did hit me. The other one is the Howard side mission, where you have to find a new spot for his pigeons, but when you return to him, he's being taken away in an ambulance because he passed away. That was super unexpected, and I've seen lots of people online say that they've teared up in that scene. I can completely understand why. It's completely out of the blue how Insomniac added so much emotion to some of these side missions, and I'm all for it. Overall, this was a huge improvement in the gameplay from the first one, and I can't wait to see what else they add in the future. Onto the score. The score, in my opinion, was so well done. It's very powerful and suspenseful for the game. I loved the tracks for all the chases in the game, like the Lizard Craven River attack was incredible, and the Lizard City chase, again, incredible. Craven's theme is awesome. I get goosebumps every time I hear it, and the mashup of Peter and Miles' themes together is really cool. John Pisano has made one of my favorite Spider-Man themes, honestly a top 3 Spider-Man theme for me. The symbiote tracks really gave that thrilling and sinister feeling to Peter's transformation, which was really cool, and the score feels more cinematic in this in a way for me. Overall, amazing score. John Pisano should continue doing the score for the franchise, and I can't wait to see what he cooks up for the third game. Now, the final grading for Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. Personally, I enjoy this way more than the first one. The first one will always have a special place in my heart, but Spider-Man 2 succeeds in almost every way. This is literally a perfect game. Everything I have mentioned proves this, and this is some of the best content I have ever seen in my life. This fulfills everything I could have ever wanted from a Spider-Man game. It brilliantly adapts the symbiote storyline. It has an awesome Kraven involvement, incredible character development, amazing gameplay, outstanding score, so it's no surprise that my final grade for this is a 10 out of 10. Literally some of the best Spider-Man storytelling, superhero storytelling, and just storytelling in general ever. Hands down, Insomniac is a force to be reckoned with in the gaming industry. I can't wait to see what they do with the future of the Spider-Man franchise as well with Wolverine. Maybe they're developing some other superhero games, but Insomniac has earned my trust time and time again, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you really like this video. I have other content like this, and make sure to hit the like button and share it around if you really enjoyed it. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks again.